The Blacksmith's Silent Anvil, Part 1. Before our story begins, let's take a moment to rest. Wherever you are, sitting, lying down, maybe wrapped in a blanket, let your shoulders grow heavy, let your jaw unclench, and breathe in the thought of calm. Now breathe out the day that's past. Feel your heartbeat slowing, like embers cooling at the end of a long day. Imagine a soft, distant rhythm, the steady whoosh of a bellows feeding a gentle fire, the sound rising and falling like a slow tide. Let that rhythm match your breath, in and out, in and out. Good. Now imagine the scent of smoke, not harsh, but earthy and sweet, like oak and pine quietly giving themselves to the night. A light breeze drifts through an open workshop door, carrying the perfume of rain-soaked grass and iron. Outside, the crickets have begun their evening song, and far off, an owl stirs in the rafters. Our story tonight begins in the little village of Alderholt, when the year was young, and the stars above England's thatched rooftops still seemed close enough to touch. Alderholt was small, just a winding road of cottages and apple trees, a stone well in the square, and one forge at the far edge of the lane, where warmth spilled out onto the cobbles long after the rest of the world had gone to sleep. Inside that forge, the air shimmered with red light, not the roaring blaze of midday work, but a dim, comforting glow, the glow of a fire tended by care, not by urgency. There stood the blacksmith. Eamon Holt, they called him, a man with hands that could bend iron and yet cradle a bird's wing without harm. His hair, dusted with ash, gleamed like pewter in the flicker of the coals. And though the forge was quiet now, his hammer rested beside him, a sleeping companion waiting for dawn. But tonight, Eamon was not forging tools or armor for lords or farmers. No, this was his night of silence, the night he made the iron roses. Each year, when spring returned and the first real thaw touched the fields, Eamon crafted one rose of iron, just one. Petal by petal, leaf by leaf, a flower that would never wither. He said they were for remembrance, for those who had gone and for those still waiting to be loved. No one quite knew whose memory he worked for, but the village always saw him in those quiet hours. The forge breathing softly like a sleeping beast, and the shape of a flower slowly blooming in his hands. He began by choosing the metal carefully, not from his pile of raw ore or heavy scraps, but from the slender, delicate ends of old horseshoe nails and worn hinges, metal softened by time. He would heat them slowly until the color turned from dusk red to sunrise orange. And when he lifted them from the coals, the light glowed in his eyes like dawn. His hammer rose, not in harsh strikes, but gentle taps. Tap, tap, tap. The sound echoed like a lullaby in the night. Each tap shaped the petals, curling, folding, coaxing beauty from something once rough. He worked as if listening to something far beyond the walls, as if each note of the hammer was answering a question whispered by the stars. When he quenched the metal, he didn't use water as most smiths did. He used oil, pressed from flaxseed and stored in a clay jar, thick and sweet-smelling, the way monks once kept it in abbey workshops centuries before. The moment the glowing petal met the oil, a soft hiss filled the air, a sigh of steam and smoke, curling upward like a ghost set free. Eamon always smiled at that sound. He called it the breath of iron, and to those who ever heard it, it sounded almost alive, like the forge itself was whispering back to him, "Rest easy, craftsman, you've done well." Outside the forge, the night deepened into velvet. The moon hung low, silvering the thatch rooftops, and though the world slept, a small warmth drifted down the lane, a heartbeat of heat and hammer, steady as a lullaby. Sometimes as Eamon worked, he remembered his father, a smith before him, who taught him that metal remembers kindness, that every strike of the hammer carries intention, and that the gentlest hand makes the strongest shape. His father used to say, "Steel listens, boy. Treat it with anger, it hardens against you. Treat it with patience, and it bends with grace." And so, Eamon never rushed. He let time fall away, as though the world outside had stopped breathing. The coals murmured, the air shimmered, and the anvil, the old pitted block of iron he had inherited, seemed to hum beneath his touch. It was said that an anvil could store memory, that every blow ever struck upon it left a trace within the metal's heart. If that were true, then Eamon's anvil carried centuries of dreams. He set another petal to the flame. Its edges curled in the fire's orange light, and as he drew it out, the metal glowed like captured sunset. He shaped it gently, hammering a curve so fine it looked like silk. The bellows behind him exhaled with each breath of his arm, the sound deep and rhythmic. Whoosh, hush, whoosh, hush. It was hypnotic. Even the coals seemed to glow in time with his breathing. Outside, a drizzle began to fall. Soft rain tapping the wooden shutters, a lullaby of its own. Eamon paused for a moment, watching the droplets gather on the windowsill. They hissed and danced when they touched a stray spark, tiny worlds meeting for an instant, then vanishing. He smiled faintly. He always said the rain had its own forge, shaping rivers, carving stone, cooling the fever of summer fields. Now the rose was nearly complete. Each petal overlapped just so, like armor that longed to be gentle. Eamon lifted it toward the firelight. It gleamed, silver and red, soft as memory, strong as time. He set it aside on a linen cloth to cool, the way a baker might rest a loaf. And for a moment he just listened to the hiss of coals, to the whisper of rain, to the silence between breaths. The silence felt alive, a space so still that even thoughts dared not disturb it. And somewhere in that stillness, a memory stirred. A voice, distant but tender, a woman's laughter, soft as bells on a Sunday morning. He could almost see her hands, lifting a real rose from the garden long ago. She had pressed it into his palm and said, "If you ever make one that never fades, then you'll know I'm near." The petals of that memory folded around him like warmth. And as the forge fire dimmed, Eamon whispered, "Then tonight, love, you are near indeed." The coals settled into a deep red sigh. Outside, the rain had stopped. Only the bellows breathed now, and the old anvil waited in stillness, its surface cooling, its spirit humming. Eamon sat beside it, closed his eyes, and let the warmth drift through him. Some said they saw smoke rise in the shape of a flower that night. Others said it was just the fire's dream. But all who walked by the forge of Alderholt remembered how gentle the air had felt, as though even the metal had learned how to rest. And now, as the embers fade, you might imagine yourself sitting there beside the blacksmith's fire. Feel the calm hum of warmth. Smell the faint sweetness of oil and rain. Let the rhythm of the bellows carry your breathing. Slow, steady, effortless. The world grows quiet, and the last glow of the forge flickers out. You are safe, you are still, and the night holds you gently. The Blacksmith's Silent Anvil, Part 2. The night deepened until even the stars seemed to rest. Only the forge's last embers glowed, a constellation of warmth beneath the open door. Eamon stirred, not from restlessness, but from the quiet pull of completion. He rose and touched the rose he had made, now cool beneath his fingertips. Smooth as riverstone, each petal folded with the patience of a prayer. He lifted it into the dim red light, turning it slowly. Even without the fire, it seemed to glow on its own, a deep, tempered sheen, as though it remembered the forge's heartbeat. He smiled softly. Then, with a motion born of ritual, he set the rose upon the anvil and began to polish it with wool. The sound was barely there. A hush upon hush. the whisper of cloth on metal, and if one listened closely, you could almost hear the anvil breathe beneath it. A low hum, steady and ancient. Eamon often said the anvil had its own dreams, that after so many years of work and fire, it too desired peace. Tonight the anvil dreamed quietly beneath the iron rose. Outside, the clouds thinned, and the moon emerged, full and golden, pouring its light through the workshop window. Dust motes drifted in the glow, slow and weightless as thoughts at the edge of sleep. Eamon watched them, their unhurried dance, and felt something loosen inside him, the soft ache of memory turning to calm. He whispered to the rose, "You'll rest now too." Then he set it beside a row of others, some small and delicate, others grand as peonies, each one a year of his life, each a whisper of someone remembered. No two were the same. Some leaned slightly, some gleamed brighter, some had little folds where the hammer had wavered, but all were beautiful because they had been shaped with patience and finished with silence. Eamon reached for his cloak, its wool heavy with the scent of ash and wind. He pushed open the forge door, and the cool night air met him like a sigh of relief. The world was painted in moonlight. The cobblestones shimmered faintly, the apple trees along the lane dusted with silver. From a chimney nearby, a thin curl of smoke drifted upward, the last breath of a home ready for dreams. Eamon stepped outside, iron rose in hand, and began to walk toward the square. The sound of his boots on the stones was soft, a rhythm that matched his own heartbeat. With each step, the village seemed to lean closer, as though listening to him pass. When he reached the well, he paused. Its stone rim was slick with dew, and the bucket rope swayed gently in the night breeze. This was where he always left the rose, right in the center of the square, where the first rays of dawn would find it. He knelt, set the rose carefully upon the stones, and pressed his calloused hand against the cold metal. For a moment, the whole village seemed to hold its breath. Then faintly the wind shifted, and from the trees beyond the wall came the soft, clear call of a nightingale. A single, pure note that trembled in the air like a blessing. Eamon smiled. He whispered, "Aye, she's near," and rose to his feet. The walk back to the forge was slower, not from weariness, but from peace. He passed quiet cottages, their shutters closed tight, a warm orange gleam seeping through the cracks, lamplight, candlelight, the heartbeat of home. In one window, a child's wooden toy horse rested by the sill, its mane carved rough and simple. Eamon paused to look at it, and his eyes softened. He'd made that one too, years ago, for a boy who'd since grown tall enough to carry a sword instead of a toy. The blacksmith's work was like that, he thought, shaping the small things of the world, never knowing which would endure and which would fade into memory. And somehow that was comfort enough. Back inside the forge, the fire had settled into ash. The anvil gleamed faintly in the moonlight. The bellows hung still, their leather sides slack and resting. Eamon sat once more beside them, his elbows on his knees, his gaze lost in the quiet. He breathed deeply, the air still warm, rich with iron and oil and sleep. He thought of all the things a forge could be, a place of labor, a place of prayer, a place where transformation was not loud but patient. And as he sat there, he realized that even he, the man of hammer and fire, had been shaped the same way, slowly, by time, by care, by silence. Soft whisper guiding the listener now toward deep rest. And now, dear listener, as you sit beside him in spirit, feel the calm of this forge settle over you. The air is warm, and the world beyond it distant, as if every sound was softened by the hush of night. You can hear the faint creak of the rafters, the sigh of settling coals, the quiet of an old building that has learned how to sleep standing. Breathe in and out. Each breath is a bellows stroke, drawing calm into you, releasing the day. The warmth of the forge touches your skin, gentle, steady, safe. You feel the pulse of the anvil beneath your feet. A slow, grounding heartbeat of iron and earth. It reminds you that you are steady too, that you are shaped not by rush, but by care, that you are strong and soft and quietly alive. Outside, dawn begins to creep over the horizon. The sky turns from ink to pearl. A few roosters crow, and the village stirs in sleep. The iron rose on the well catches the first light. Its petals gleam faintly gold, and for a moment it looks almost real, like it might open if the morning asked kindly enough. The blacksmith watches from his doorway. He doesn't move. He just lets the day arrive. And as sunlight touches his face, he closes his eyes. He hears faintly the hiss of quenched metal, the rhythm of breath, the song of the nightingale returning to the hedge. He whispers, "All is forged anew." And the world, in that quiet instant, seems to agree. Now let yourself drift, as the blacksmith drifts, into the soft quiet after the fire. Feel the warmth linger, the heartbeat slow, the mind uncoil. You are resting now in the forge of dreams, where every thought cools into peace and every worry folds into calm metal. Sleep comes like dawn, slowly, inevitably, beautifully. Rest now and let the anvil dream for you. The world is safe, the work is done, and the night holds you, steady and still. The Baker of Hollow Hill. Part 1. Before our story begins, take a deep breath. In through the nose and out through the quiet of your own chest. Let your shoulders fall. Let your hands rest loosely in your lap. Imagine the gentle heaviness that comes when the night itself starts to cool. Good. Now imagine a hillside, green in daylight, but silvered now by moonlight. A small door, arched and low, half hidden beneath vines and moss. Behind that door, the faintest glow, amber and alive. That is the bakery of Hollow Hill, and tonight, before the first bird wakes, a single fire keeps its promise to the village. In the valley below, every cottage is still. Roofs of thatch wear a shimmer of frost. Windows are dark, and the river hums its slow winter song. But under the hill, warmth stirs. The bakery isn't large, just one wide stone room carved from earth, its ceiling curved like the inside of an oven itself. In the center, the great hearth glows red and calm. Above it, hooks hang with blackened pans and long-handled peels of ashwood. And before that steady fire moves Ira the baker. Her hair is braided, wrapped in linen, her hands dusted white, each motion unhurried and sure. She has tended this fire since her apprenticeship, when her own master taught her that an oven once awakened should never sleep. So every night, Ira keeps the coals alive, not blazing, not fading, just breathing quietly in the dark. The dough waits for her on the bench, round and plump beneath a blanket of cloth. When she lifts the linen, the scent drifts out, warm and sweet, alive with yeast and grain. A bowl of honey rests nearby, its surface catching the firelight like amber glass. She kneads slowly, pressing rhythm into dough. The sound is soft, almost like the sea. Push, fold, turn, push, fold, turn. Flour drifts into the air, a faint mist that glows in the fire's light. Each grain falls lazily, catching little sparks like stars. The hillside walls absorb the warmth, stone acting like a heartbeat that never stops. This is how medieval ovens once were, built deep into earth, so they could hold heat through the coldest nights, one flame for many loaves, one hearth for an entire village. And so the fire inside Hollow Hill belongs to everyone, though only Ira keeps it company till dawn. She sprinkles a touch of honey over her dough, a quiet gift. In hard seasons, she says, a little sweetness keeps the soul soft. She hums while she works, a tune so old no one remembers its words, but all know its comfort. It rises and falls like breath, like the bellows of the oven itself. The air smells of malt and warmth and patience. Outside, frost thickens on the grass, but inside the hill, time feels suspended, not stopped, just slow. The fire gives a tiny pop, and Ira looks up with a smile. That, to her, is the oven saying thank you. She shapes each loaf with gentle turns of her wrist, rounding edges, smoothing cracks, tucking stray seams beneath. No scales, no measure, only feel and memory. She marks each loaf with a wooden seal, a simple carving of a wheat stalk. In the villages of England, bakers once stamped their loaves to prove the weight and price were honest. But here, Era's mark means something else, not proof of measure, but of care. She whispers to each one, a habit she's never broken. Rise kindly, rest easy. When all are shaped, she brushes the hearth clean, then tests the heat the way her master taught her, not with numbers, but with instinct. She tosses a pinch of flour onto the brick. It darkens, but does not burn. Perfect. The oven is ready to dream. Era slides each loaf inside, with the long peel steady and smooth, a movement half craft, half blessing. The oven mouth closes with a low thud, and the hill exhales. Now there is nothing to do but wait, and listen. So she sits on her bench by the wall, hands folded in her lap. The oven's warmth seeps through her skirt, and the smell of baking begins its slow bloom. It is a smell that finds every corner, waking the rafters, stirring the cobwebs, settling over her shoulders like a shawl. She listens. At first, there is only the hush of flame, then a faint tapping, the crust forming, whispering its readiness. Sometimes she thinks the oven speaks in its own language, that every hiss of steam, every crackle of wood is a sentence about transformation. Metal changes in the forge, grain changes here, fire is the translator. The steady warmth begins to lull her. Her eyes flutter closed just for a moment. She dreams of fields rippling gold, of hands scattering seed, of the hum of scythes through summer air. Then, a soft pop from the oven, and she wakes, smiling. Almost ready, she murmurs. She stands, stretches, and opens the small vent in the oven door. A gust of fragrant steam billows out, sweet, wholesome, thick with life. Her breath catches, every time feels like the first. Outside, the sky has shifted from black to deep blue. Soon the villagers will come, each bringing their own shaped dough stamped with symbols of their household, a leaf, a fish, a heart, a simple cross. They'll line up at the hill door and trade quiet greetings while she tends the flame. But for now, she is alone with her loaves, and that is her favorite hour of all. She opens the door halfway, sliding the peel beneath a finished loaf. It comes free easily, light as a breath. The crust glows russet, the base sings when she taps it. A hollow toke like a heartbeat. Steam curls upward, carrying notes of honey and smoke. It smells like morning itself, deciding to begin. Era lays the loaf on a wooden board, then another, and another, until the bench holds a row of small suns. She leans close, listening to their gentle crackle as they cool. To her, it is the sound of peace made audible. And outside, at last, a rooster calls. The village is waking. You might imagine you're sitting there beside her in the warmth of the hill, watching the first light touch the stones. You can almost feel it, that mixture of fire and dawn and rest. The day has not yet begun, but everything already feels complete. The oven hums, the hill breathes, and the baker of Hollow Hill smiles into the glow, hands dusted with flour, heart steady as bread cooling on the bench. The Baker of Hollow Hill, Part 2, softly, almost whispering as if by a fire. Outside the oven door, dawn has arrived without hurry. Light gathers itself slowly, first silver, then gold, until it slides gently through the low doorway, painting the flour dust in the air like drifting pollen. Ira stands quietly, a hand resting on the edge of her bench. In that warm, flower-scented hush, time seems to hold its breath. She can hear the first stirrings of the village, a latch lifting, a gate creaking, a cough carried on the chill morning air. And then, faint but certain, footsteps. The villagers are coming. They come as they always do, one by one in twos and threes, with shawls pulled close and baskets under arms. Children blink sleepily behind them, their noses pink from the cold. Everyone follows the same soft ribbon of smoke that curls from the hill's chimney. The first to arrive is old Brenna, her scarf wrapped twice around her head. She leans on her stick and smiles as she enters, her eyes watering from the sudden warmth. "Morning, Era," she rasps, voice like parchment rubbed with kindness. "Still keeping the hill from freezing solid, are you?" Era chuckles softly. "As long as my fire holds breath, Brenna." She takes the woman's basket, a round of pale dough shaped with care, its top marked with the baker's stamp, a single spiral like a snail's shell. Brenna's mark, always the same. She says it reminds her that everything in life comes around again. Era slides it gently into the waiting oven, where the warmth folds around it like a blanket. The old woman sits by the wall, holding her hands to the heat, smiling with the contentment of someone who's seen many winters yet still delights in the first loaf of spring. Next come the miller's sons, broad-shouldered and loud with whispered jokes. Their aprons carry dust of their own, fine flour, the proof of their trade. They set down their doughs, heavy, hearty things, rich with barley and rye, and Era nods approvingly. They've learned well. Each loaf carries its family's mark, a carved barley head and 3 dots beneath. "Careful not to burn them this time," one teases. "Last week's were brown as boots." Era smiles faintly, tapping the peel against her palm. "Then perhaps it's the boots that should be eaten." They laugh, but softer than they used to. The hill's warmth tempers all noise. More villagers drift in. The weaver, her hands smelling faintly of lanolin and dye. The shepherd's boy, carrying a small lump of dough cupped in both palms like treasure. And even the priest, whose loaf bears a cross so fine it looks drawn with a quill. Each places their bread in her care. Each steps back into the glow and the scent, and the silence gathers like prayer. Soon the bakery hums, not with chatter, but with the quiet rhythm of people at peace. No one rushes here. They wait together, breathing the same warm air, watching steam curl and fade. It's said that long ago, villagers would quarrel at the market or the mill, but never in the bakery. The oven, Era's master once told her, was sacred ground. "Fire judges no one," he'd said. "It simply changes what it's given." And she's found that to be true. While the loaves bake, she pours water from the kettle into cups of clay. Not ale, not wine, just hot water sweetened with honey. They drink in silence, hands cupped for warmth. The smell of the baking bread grows deeper, dark crust forming, sweet air thickening, each note a memory of comfort. Era tends the fire with a long hook, turning a log, coaxing more breath into the embers. The glow deepens. Every brick in the oven seems to pulse with life. The hill itself hums. Outside, the light grows stronger. But inside, no one wants to leave just yet. When the time comes, Ira opens the oven door. The sound, a soft sigh of release, fills the whole space. The heat billows out, carrying the fragrance of baked grain and honey. Every loaf has risen beautifully, golden, round, the marks clear and proud upon their crowns. The villagers lean forward, their eyes bright as children's. Era slides them out one by one, naming each by its sign. Brenna's spiral, the miller's 3 dots, the shepherd's leaf, the priest's cross. Each loaf is returned to its owner, wrapped in a cloth still warm from the bench. Hands touch. Nods are exchanged, and for a moment, just a moment, it feels like the whole village shares one heartbeat. Brenna presses a coin into Era's palm, but Era closes her fingers gently around it and gives it back. "Next time," she murmurs. The old woman nods, eyes glimmering with gratitude, and slips a crust from her loaf to Era instead. "It's only fair you taste your own warmth," she says. Era laughs softly, breaking a piece and tasting. The bread is perfect. Light inside, crisp outside, with a sweetness that hums quietly against her tongue. The others smile, then take their leave, each vanishing into the daylight with a trail of steam from their baskets. One by one, they step back into the waking world. When the last villager is gone, silence returns, not empty but full. A silence like soft cloth folded neatly. Era sits again by the oven. The coals have dimmed to red pearls. The walls of the hill breathe warmth back into the room. Outside, birds are singing, sparrows and larks, the sound of morning fully born. She takes the broom and sweeps the floor, gathering flour and ashes together. Then she covers the embers with a thin layer of sand, not to smother them, but to let them sleep. That is the secret of Hollow Hill. The fire never dies. It rests. Tomorrow night, she'll wake it again with a breath and a whisper. The same flame that once baked for her master will bake for the children of this village and their children after. One flame, endless loaves. Now imagine you're sitting there with her, in the hush after work is done. The smell of fresh bread wraps around you like a warm blanket. Your hands are empty, but your heart feels full. The air is slow and golden. The hill's stones still glow faintly, as though the fire inside them has seeped into the bones of the earth. You breathe in and taste the sweetness of grain and ash. You breathe out and feel every worry dissolve like flour in water. All around, life hums at a gentler pace, steady, circular, kind. Nothing rushed, nothing wasted, just warmth shared and rest earned. Outside, the village begins to move again. Market stalls opening, carts rolling, doors creaking. But beneath it all, deep under Hollow Hill, the oven sleeps, holding its small sun of heat. It will wake again when the stars return, when the world needs its warmth once more. And Era, the baker of Hollow Hill, will light her lamp, tie back her hair, and begin again with patient hands and a quiet smile. Because that's how peace is made, one loaf, one breath, one steady fire at a time. Now rest, listener. You've shared in her warmth. Let it linger in your chest, steady and low. The day may come and go, but the hill keeps its promise. There will always be light, always bread, always calm waiting for you in the dark. Close your eyes, breathe softly, sleep as the hill sleeps. Dream of warmth and of a fire that never fades.